Round 2 of FIDE Candidates 2024. Nakamura starts against Vidit, and we begin with Ruy Lopez. Let's go through it move by move, and slow down when the critical moment arrives. Before Round 2, Game 2, the lead is shared by Alireza Firouzja, D. Gukesh, and Fabiano Caruana on half a point. In this game, Hikaru Nakamura has the white pieces against Santosh Gujrathi Vidit, and this result feeds straight into the tournament race. Nakamura plays pawn to e4, and Vidit answers pawn to e5. For the moment, knight to f3, and knight to c6. So, bishop to b5, and knight to f6. Pawn to d3, and bishop to c5. For the moment, pawn to c3, and castle kingside. We get castle kingside, then pawn to d6. Pawn to h3, and knight to e7. Nakamura chooses pawn to d4. Vidit plays pawn to c6. Nakamura chooses bishop to d3. Vidit goes bishop to b6. Here is the problem. Pawn from d takes on e5. This opens lines and forces trades on e5. Here's the problem. Pawn from d takes on e5. Vidit recaptures and keeps the e-file sensitive. Now watch this. Knight takes on e5. Nakamura centralizes a knight, but leaves the kingside dark squares sensitive. Now, the cleaner try was bishop takes on h3. Instead, after the game move, the practical defensive try was g takes pawn to h3, keeping Vidit's pieces out. For the moment, bishop takes on h3 appears on the board in our line to set the idea. For the moment, pawn from g takes on h3, capturing fights for dark square control around the king. For the moment, queen to b8. Vidit keeps queenside flexibility while eyeing pawn to b8, pawn to h2. Back to the game. Bishop takes on h3 hits immediately, and Nakamura declines to capture. And now, bishop takes on h3. Vidit removes a key defender and loosens the Nakamura king's cover. This is the moment. Knight to c4. Nakamura eyes pawn to e5 and the pawn to b6 bishop, but the king remains airy. Here is the problem. Bishop to g4. Pins and pressure start pointing at pawn to g2 and pawn to e2. Nakamura chooses queen to c2. Vidit plays bishop to c7. Nakamura goes pawn to e5. Vidit goes knight to d7. Now watch this. Here the move is bishop takes on h7 with check. Bishop takes on h7, check. Vidit finds king to h8, the first move that really changes the tone of the game. Nakamura chooses bishop to d3. Vidit plays pawn to b5. Nakamura plays knight to e3. Now watch this. Knight takes on e5. Vidit eliminates the advanced pawn to e5 pawn and clears lines toward the Nakamura king. Nakamura chooses bishop to e2. Vidit plays pawn to f5. Nakamura plays pawn to f4. Vidit chooses bishop to b6. Nakamura goes king to f2. Vidit goes knight to d5. This is the moment. Here the move is rook to h1 with check. Rook to h1, check. Vidit plays king to g8. Now watch this. Pawn from f takes on e5. Nakamura opens lines, banking on activity. Vidit chooses queen to g5. This is the moment. King to e1. Nakamura centralizes the king to escape checks, but it invites tactics. Now, the cleaner try was knight takes on e3. Here Vidit's cleanest path was knight takes pawn to e3, cutting coordination at once. For the moment, knight takes on e3. That hits the queen and dark squares in one go. For the moment, bishop takes on e3. Nakamura would aim to simplify the attack. For the moment, queen takes on e3. Vidit keeps checks flowing with material pressure. Back to the game. In the game we get bishop takes on e3. In the game though, Vidit captures with the bishop instead and gives Nakamura counter chances. Here is the problem. Bishop takes on e3. This trades off an attacker, but loosens Vidit's grip. Now watch this. Bishop takes on g4. Nakamura trades off the most active piece to relieve pressure. And now queen takes on g4. The queenside pawn shield is fixed, but now the queen invades with checks. This is the moment. Bishop takes on e3. Nakamura clears pawn to e2 for the queen and tries to blunt the attack. This is the moment. Knight takes on e3. Vidit keeps the initiative by hitting the queen and dark squares again. Here is the problem. Queen to e2. This walks into forcing checks and hands momentum back to Vidit. Now watch this. Here the move is queen to g3 with check. And now, king to d2. Nakamura runs, but the files stay open. This is the moment. Here the move is rook from a to d8 with check. Rook from a to d8 check. Nakamura chooses king to c1. Vidit plays queen to g5. And now, pawn to b3. Nakamura tries to build a shelter. This is the moment. Here the move is knight to f1 with check. Knight to f1, check. After round 2, Santosh Gujrathi Vidit moves to 1.5 points. The lead is shared by D. Gukesh, Fabiano Caruana, Ian Nepomniachtchi on 1.5, so this result matters immediately in the standings. Vidit gets the full point, and Nakamura cannot hold the endgame. That wraps up the game and what it means for the round.